Oh, you lie. So unproportionate.
Mom's cooking chicken and collard greens. Christmas tree. Christmas carols.
Well, I hope that was entertaining.
That transition was smooth.
Woo!
Is your heart rate up?
Yes.
We work out, right?
I just worked out. It was lovely. You should all do it.
Guys, happy Friday.
Let's introduce ourselves. My name is Casey.
Yeah,
I'm from the gym.
yeah,
I like to work out.
yeah.
Kind of.
I'll check you out.
Check you out.
My name is Kadimah.
Yeah.
Nothing rhymes with Kadimah.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Yeah.
I'll check you out.
Yeah.
What's up, Henny? What is up, bro?
If you missed the beginning of the show,
Go back.
you should rewind. Go back. Be a little delayed.
Yeah, you'll be all right. Guys, we're going to get right into it because this is that time of year where people are bringing random breads that they cook from their house.
Thank you.
And I'm not going to deny how good they are, but
You can't deny it.
I just can't eat that many pieces of it, but I've already extended it.
I haven't tried it yet because once I
should.
start,
You're not stopping.
nah, bro.
What up, bro?
It's real hard. It is the busy season, even though it's like weird right now.
What do you
Like,
mean?
because COVID. It's just, everything feels weird.
I don't feel that anymore.
Oh, gosh.
You know what bubble I live in.
Yeah, but have you been like to a Target
Nope.
or, yeah. I encourage you to just go look. It's weird. Like everybody is like hustle and bustle with their masks on. Like, okay, we're all good now. Got our mask on. Gotta get all these presents. I don't know.
So
It's
I
just
guess,
weird.
are you just done with the mask or what?
I just feel like we're in a spaceship movie. Like, not a spaceship, but you know what I mean? Like, we're in like, it's weird. It still feels weird. I'm like, can there be something that feels normal? This is a very normal part of my week. This hasn't changed.
I think we should be wearing masks, though.
Whatever. I'm not wearing a freaking mask. Get out of here.
Oh, guys.
Gosh.
You're right, Tyler. They have been tough this week.
What, the workouts?
Yep.
Dude,
He hasn't
I
been here,
am.
but he's being funny.
Oh. They have been tough. I'm so sore. Feeling good.
I feel pretty good.
I'm all right.
Guys, so we're trying. This is called keeping your stuff together.
Your stuff.
Keeping your stuff together.
Your stuff.
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 Okay. Let's jam on this.
All right,
How do we keep it
so-
together?
Well, we don't. I'm just kidding. We try to. I mean, I think something that's really important, especially we've got COVID going on, we've got Christmas, your kids have all these weird protocols, your work, how you do everything has changed. We've all been thrown out of our routines. We've all had to make adjustments, and everybody is just a little more high-strung, right? So keeping your stuff together is on everyone's radar. It's what we're all trying to do. Is like, okay, how can we just get to the next chapter? Let's get to the next phase. We're going to make it through this. Remembering when you're struggling with that, to admit that most situations are short-lived. And my dad, whenever I was a kid, he used to tell me, like, I'd be like, I feel old, you know, and I would be like 10. Like, you know, you think you got your big, you know, your big girl pants on. And he's like, you're 10. He's like, make a line in your head. Make a graph from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 100. You're here. And I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. Like, it just put it in perspective. So if we do the same thing for situations, things that are hard, things that are tough, challenging seasons, and we look at that and we just go, it's a blip in time for how long we're on this earth, and even that's a blip, right? So I think remembering that those situations, any situation you're in that you're feeling overwhelmed by, or like, when is this going to change? Just remembering that it's short-lived.
Yeah, I think one of the things about that is it's almost every single time something happens, you kind of have to reset. Like, and this kind of goes into the second point, but these things we don't know how long this time period is. We're already seeing, the news is changing, and I don't, self-admittedly, as she's looking at me right now, I don't watch very much news. I don't really know what's going on in the news. That's just how I keep my bubble good, or manageable, or whatever. But the one thing I do know is I do see, like, just to talk a little bit more about COVID, because that's the thing that's affecting all of us, right?
Sure.
People's jobs, etc. And depending on the country, the region of the country you are, is going to affect more. And I mean, and for our industry, it's extremely affected our industry if you're in different states. I mean, California is back on lockdown. I know Arizona, Pennsylvania, many states are still going through this process. There are a lot of businesses now that are fighting this process. They're saying, no, we're staying open and we don't care what you do in this process. So we're seeing different situations everywhere. I think one of the things, though, is when it comes to this, is that you have to have the expectation that it's going to pass.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's what we're talking about when we say most situations are short-lived, that this is going to pass. I don't necessarily know what's going to come from it, but I have to have faith that it is going to pass and things are going to get better. And you have to take actionable steps to make it better. It's not going to just get better because you go, it's going to get better, and I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to sit on the couch and eat. I always say bonbons, but nobody eats bonbons.
I don't even know what that is.
It's a reference to home, Married with Children.
Oh,
so
I don't know.
But sit on the couch and do nothing. That's just not going to happen. You have to actively pursue and think and expect better to be there. And when the stuff does happen, we have to shift from that, right? Mm-hmm. So let's go into our second point here. Even if you're keeping a positive mindset and you're going through some stuff happens on a dime. We hear all the time about different districts having different rules. One kid in the class gets COVID, whole class has to be quarantined. If you're working from home, or you have, you're working from a job, you don't have any way to do any sitting, they can't be at your work. Now you got to figure out how they're going to be able to go, do online school. And what if they don't learn well on online school? So you have all these dynamics of stuff that keeps happening, and you have to constantly reset yourself. Like, you have to constantly go, okay, we're going to figure this out. One step at a time, we're going to figure this out. It's going to work out. I don't know how. That's not my job, is to know how. Mm-hmm. I'm going to just take the next step forward and expect that something else is going to come from that. Which sounds crazy, but it works.
And I think that, like, when you're saying take the next step forward, a lot of the time, and I know that there was a long time in my life where I not necessarily like pushed off everything on other people or anything, but it was like not fully acknowledging how much, it sounds, I don't know, I don't want to sound backwards, but you have a lot of control over how you handle a situation or what action you take thereafter. And I think I read The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Bleep, and the book was I didn't really agree. I didn't really agree with a lot of it, but I do remember that there was a really good story in there about a guy that was going to, I'm going to probably butcher this, it's been several years since I read this, but the guy is about to commit suicide. He's like about to give up, and he has lost his whole dreams. He's let his dad down. He's just like done with life. And he said, you know what? For 1 year, before I do this, for 1 year, I'm going to pretend that I have control over every single action. I'm going to take responsibility for it. And in 1 year, he like turned his life around. He opened a very successful business. He is doing what he loved and making money. And I'm not saying that that's the way it's going to go for all of us. I'm just saying that sometimes we have more control than we acknowledge that we have in our lives. That can also, if you take that too far the other way, then I feel like that could also be negative.
Like what?
If you think that you have, that could create a lot of guilt, or like, that's a lot of responsibility, right? That you're putting on yourself. And for me, being a believer, sometimes I have to some extent, let that emotionally go.
Okay.
Is what I mean.
Okay.
So, anyways.
So
Well,
stuff happens. It's bad, right? We have to shift somewhere. But before we can shift, right? There's a couple things we need to think about, right? One is, I think we've already kind of covered this, but continuing to believe that something is going to happen, that this will get better. This isn't the end all be all. And then sometimes it could be so bad, right? The situation could be so bad that you have to you try to go around it quickly and you can't. And we call that sitting in the stuff, okay? But the other word, okay? So so you have to sit in the stuff for a while. It could be 3 days, it could be a week, right? But you still have to keep continuing to go through the motions otherwise in your life, but don't fake your emotions, right? You have to acknowledge that those things are real, and then from there, allow things to continue to unfold as you keep pressing on for better things to come.
Absolutely. This year has been, for me, being a person that has to process things, sitting in the stuff is cheers if you're sitting in the stuffer. You're not.
No, I'm not a sit in the stuff. At least not in that way.
No,
You know how I sit in the stuff?
you keep going.
I keep going.
I know.
Like I turn up the activity.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. You're
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm going to work 20 hours today. I'm like, oh, all right, I'm going to go take a nap.
I love it. We all handle it a little bit differently, and there's a balance in between the two.
Yeah, we need to yin yang.
Visualization helps me get out of stuff. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. If you have a way that you handle getting out of stuff, please comment below, and we'd love to jam on that, because this is just two perspectives on how we kind of handle certain things. But I'd love to hear how you guys. Thank you, Alicia, for sharing that.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is another way of kind of getting yourself to move in the positive direction is to create some non-negotiables for yourself, like things you are not going to do.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I think this is probably the hardest thing we're going to talk about today, because how easy, okay, let us be the yin and the yang here. If you sit down and write yourself a list of things, you're like, this is what I'm doing this, da, 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 da. Like, you're sticking to it, right?
Most likely, yes.
Like, without even questioning, am I going to or am I not going to? It's just like a yes, no, black, white.
Yep.
I would say that if I did the same thing, I guess it depends on if I sat down and wrote a list and I was like, all right, this is what I'm doing from this time to this time or forever or whatever it is. I think it's easy for me to get off track or find a gray area of like, well, I'm on vacation, so I can whatever, eat like crap, or I think it's easy to kind of fall off of the wagon.
Okay.
But I think that if there are things that are set in place, you can always come back to that. It's like having a strong foundation in anything, right? You know those things, and then you just start getting better and better and better at falling off less times.
Sure. So I think we can look at this in two different ways, right? Because we talked about this in terms of stuff happening, like as in relation to COVID and those things, right? We didn't really necessarily talk about stuff happening in terms of like you're invited to a party or somebody brings bread to the gym or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that kind of stuff. And then we've talked about creating non-negotiables in terms of like something catastrophic has happened. Let's say a relationship or something, okay? That doesn't mean that we're like psychiatrists, but we kind of try to apply these same things in all areas of our lives. So whatever you're successful at with one area, one of the common things to do is just try to duplicate that with some of the same methods and principles in other areas of your life, right? So for me, when I look at the best time that I had in school, when I was pushing myself physically as hard as possible, right? And it led to me pushing myself mentally as hard as possible, and it led to me making more disciplines and things in my life. So now I do that today. I'm going to go as hard as I can for me, and then I try to let that energy carry me out into other things, right? So when we talk about non-negotiables, one of the things that I go to when I am feeling like I'm starting to get stuck in the mud, right? Or, yeah, eggnog bread, yep. That's it, Chelsea. That is it. I think it is. Chocolate bread. Yeah, I like that too. Yeah. One of the things that I like to do is what she was talking about, writing a schedule or writing things like non-negotiables. Because the first thing to go when I am feeling bad is I start breaking routines.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it could be, I don't feel like brushing my teeth tonight. I know that sounds disgusting for some of you, okay? But I'm just putting it out there. I know it's time for me to go to bed, and I floss, brush, scrape tongue, the whole thing every night, okay? Now, if I'm dragging to brush my teeth, I'm dragging to take a shower, I'm dragging to do the most common things that you're supposed to do, right? That's the first thing to go.
General health.
General hygiene and health goes out the window, okay? Which sounds crazy, but that's what happens to me. I just start, I'm struggling to do the minuscule things. Now, the things that I have to show up for, like that involve dependence on other people, that people are depending on me on, I still can keep those together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somewhat. But the things that are dependent on me alone, I'm like, I just don't feel like doing this. Working out, I don't feel like doing that. I have no inspiration for it. I'm trying to motivate myself. I'm trying to find something. Those things start to go away. But if I stick to them, right? If I say like, it's a non-negotiable that you have to get in this many workouts a week, or you have to work out, right? The moment I start, it's not very fun. All of a sudden I get into it. Afterwards, I get this high, these endorphins, and it carries me on the rest of that day, right? So you have to have ways of keeping yourself on the path, even while you're struggling to stay on the path, I guess.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think, and that is exactly you. To the T.
Yeah.
Good job. Way to know yourself.
Who's in there? Who's in on this? I'm not in on this. But I'm going to say care. So Chelsea says, 75 hard starts January 4th. Who's in?
Yeah.
Hashtag Emily Kitos.
Yeah.
Non-negotiable.
We have done the 75 hard, and it was great. It was great.
Nobody got time for that.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, but it's funny. We kind of already we live a certain degree of the 75 hard.
24/7, 365.
Yeah. So, and where we live with that, I'm getting pretty okay with. I still feel like there's things that I could do better. But I think that that's the way it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
It's supposed to get a little bit better and then a little bit better, and then you become more and more disciplined over time.
Yeah. I want to jam on that 75 hard for all the people who don't know, just in case you have some curiosity of it, because New Year's stuff is coming up, resolutions, et cetera, et cetera.
Let's talk about it.
That'll be fun to talk about.
Yeah.
So,
are we talking about that right now?
No, we're going to go. Let's
we're
finish
going to
this
do that
stuff.
next week?
If you want to, or if we can just jam on 75 hard just at the beginning, like what they include, and then we can jam on it a lot more next week if we want to.
Cool.
What do you want to say about this one?
I think something, I know that I'm very busy, and something that makes it a lot easier for me to stay focused and stay clear is to kind of like remember what my intention is, remember what dream I'm chasing, and make it very clear that this is what I personally want. Does this choice align or not align with that? And if I can constantly remind myself of that, then I'm like constantly in my own alignment. If I start looking around and get squirrel and be like, oh, but I really want that truck, and you know, but how can I get that truck? And then I'm like, okay, that may align with some long-term goals that I want, but it doesn't really align with my current goals. So like making sure that you are very clear on what your path is, what you're doing, what you're chasing, what your goals are, and keeping that in the forefront of your mind, keep writing it down, being very clear so that your choices align with that goal and not some other distractions about what other people have or what you see on social media or this societal, standard that we have now.
I think you covered that pretty well. I don't know
Oh,
what
thank
we can
you.
add to that. I think the other thing you do is just, stop making excuses. Plain and
Boom.
simple.
Boom, son.
Stop making excuses. I like this, Shane. 7.5 is 10%, baby. Start with the 10%. That's all we gotta do.
7.5?
Yep. 7.5 days, and then we go another 7.5 days. And then we go another 7.5 days. And then we go another 7.5 days until we get to 75 days. But I like that. That's a good book called Atomic Habits talks about that. Okay. But yes, simple. Stop making excuses. Like if you want to get there, you got to get in. And this is kind of goes back to kind of a little bit of that ownership things that we were kind of talking about earlier, right? You have to accept that there are certain things that you are in control of, and you realize that there are way more things that you're in control of than you realize.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of crazy when you start taking ownership for stuff, even if you don't really know if, like at first, like while you're practicing this, it's probably going to feel like, well, that's not on me.
Yeah, and it also tick you off too.
Yeah, it does.
Because then you realize how many things that that you did wrong or how many things you're in control of. And all of a sudden you have this moment, and this is kind of a turning point moment, right? You have the decision to go to completely deny all those things. No, there's somebody else's stuff. Or you accept it, and for some reason, the moment that you accept it, you're able to give yourself grace, and then you immediately start working to fix it. Like whatever it is, you start working to fix it. When I realized, like, hey, we're going to change this, whatever it is, right? We've had the discussion a couple days ago. Hey, we're going to change something.
Mm-hmm.
What? As you look at me, like, what? We're going to change something? I'm like, yeah, we're going to change something. We've been doing this wrong, or we could do this better. Hey, I messed up. This website's going to be this much more, whatever it is, right? Automatically, I know it's my bad. There's nothing that, and I can't do anything to make the bad better in that moment. I can only go, it's my bad. This is what I did wrong, etc., etc. Take ownership for that. And then I go, but I already know how to fix it, right? And then for that person, though, they may still be in that shocked place where they're still absorbing what you've just said, so you just kind of have to deal with that part. But
sounds like you have a very specific reference in mind.
Possibly. But
I can't wait to guess after the show.
Okay. So there's constant little stuff that you're gonna have to take ownership for, and this. But I also believe that this gets your mind out of a place of, where you're in the stuff, to getting it out of there and figuring out being solution minded instead of being what was me minded.
Yeah, I think the last point is kind of funny because it's kind of backwards, but release the pressure that you're holding on yourself to pretend like you have it together all the time. Let it go. You don't. You freaking don't. We know it. We don't either. Nobody has it together. Nobody has it together all the time. And I think that it's so easy to forget that. It's so easy to hop on social media, look at Facebook, look at Instagram, whatever the heck else you're on, and just be like, man, I'm not doing enough. I struggle with this all the time. I mean, and I do a lot. It's just like it's constant. It's constant little battles in your head. It's okay if you're having a hard season. Like, it's okay. There are people that want to help you. You can come work out. That is a great way to help yourself start feeling better mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically. Literally helps all areas. So I always talk about my life as like the guy at the circus who's on the unicycle, right? He's going back and forth, doot, doot, doot. He's bouncing, and then he starts getting the things with the plates, right? And he's like got one on his nose and on his shoulder, and he's like holding the plates, and he's like on the unicycle. That's exactly how I feel like my life is. And I'm like, just don't drop this plate. Holy crap, just hold on to the plate. Got all these plates up in the air. And you got to, it's like sometimes one of them plates is going to get a little shaky, right?
Start
They're not going
spinning
to
a little slower. Start spinning a little slower.
You're like,
than the
oh
other one.
crap! Gotta move. So it's just about nurturing those little pieces where they need to get nurtured and trying not to let the plates fall on the ground. But sometimes sometimes plate falls. It's okay. Pick it back up. Start over.
Show is. That's all the points we have. Let's go to talking about Instagram is for vapid people to consume things inconsequential. Sure, but so is Facebook. Honestly, I like them all because you know what the best thing about the internet right now is? The best thing about Facebook to me, Instagram, all those things
Tell me.
are the memes.
Oh my gosh.
Memes are number one right now.
I really, over quarantine, I started falling in love with memes, and like Friday nights, I would do a meme dump. Friday or Saturday, I don't remember. But
you remember you used to make fun of me for liking memes? Like
yes, I did. But it's not just because of it. Sometimes it was the meme that you thought was really funny, and I'm like, stupid. I don't think that's funny at all. Like, it was different sense of humor. And then I forgot my other point. Well, I think number one is because they weren't funny.
Hey, they were hilarious.
You laugh harder at things on the internet than anyone I've ever seen. Like, he'll be totally by himself, and you just hear like, burst out. I'm like, this has got to be the funniest thing ever. What are you looking at? I look at it, I'm like, that's dumb. I don't get it. This is our life.
I just laugh about the moments. I can't even think of a specific meme. You know what? The one I sent you guys the other day, where it was like the mirrors at your home and the mirrors at the gym, right? The mirror at the home, you were like, everything's big and everything. The mirror at the gym, everything's flat. Like, what is going on?
I smiled at that, but I was like, huh, that's cute.
That was hilarious.
The one with the that I put on Sugarwood with the guy's legs. It's like the kid's legs like this, and then like his upper body's really big, and he's like, this is like the guy that skips leg day. That was funny. That made me laugh out loud.
I didn't admit that I laughed at your memes, by the way. I laughed at somebody's memes. I'm not giving you that credit.
Hey, he told me he likes your memes.
I don't.
You're welcome. He'd be like, you're actually the one I got the idea of the meme dump from. Because you were doing it during quarantine, so I would watch.
He still does it every Friday.
Yeah, so I took that idea.
Yeah.
But then it became more than like once a week.
He's got an obsession though, because sometimes we'll be in conversation and he'll like go, he'll stop talking while I'm talking, and he'll just show me a meme. 6-7 times in a row. I'm like, stop! I need to get this point across.
I know you know.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
All right, guys. Hey, if you like our content, please like, subscribe. What?
75.
You want to touch 75 hard, or you want to talk about that later?
Oh.
Let's touch it later. Hey, 75 hard. Next week, maybe, possibly. I don't know. We'll talk about something.
We'll see if we remember.
Yes, if you like our content.
Like us, like our page, share. Please share our content. We want to get to more people. So we're on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. And I'm
Kadimah.
And I'm Casey.
And we'll see you next time.
Have a great day. Who would that be?